Hello, Durham. Welcome to another episode of Durham Unplugged, a chance to get to the unpolitical side of politicians. Little jumble there. I'm your host, Sterling Lee, and today I have a very special guest from the other side of the border. I think you're my first Pickering guest. We have Deputy Mayor Kevin Ashe. Kevin, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, and I'm delighted to be joining you today from the wilds of West Durham, the city of Pickering, and my happy neighbors to the east in Ajax.
We are, I find things have been a lot happier since I joined council. Would you agree with
Yes, absolutely. That was it.
that? I'm clearly the X factor. Now, Kevin, you are the deputy mayor, and next year I get to be deputy mayor, so I get to hear all about it. But you actually, it's very unique circumstances. You've actually had to take over a lot of the duties of the mayor because, unfortunately, Mayor Ryan is under the weather. If I'm not, he's sick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Our procedural bylaw here has councillors taking over. We have 3 regional councillors, and so we have it for a 16-month term. When Mayor Ryan announced his illness earlier this year, council changed that bylaw to keep me as deputy mayor for the entire term. And Mayor Ryan is recovering from major surgery. He has a brand new lung.
Nice.
And it's working well. And although he isn't in the mayor's office, he does certainly have my cell phone, and he calls me every day or two for some advice or to get an update of what's happening in the city. So he's still very active. And I hope, I love the job, but I hope he's back sooner rather than later.
Right, because I was going to say, well, first things first, we're all glad to hear Mayor Ryan is doing better because obviously, he's a staple within Durham politics. But not only were you deputy mayor, you're deputy mayor under the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah. He picked a fine time to leave. That's for
talk about trial by fire. So how's that experience been overall? Just to go back, you've been in municipal politics for how long?
Well, I was first elected when I was 23 as a school trustee and served 4 terms. And this is my 4th term on council. Not consecutive, but 4 terms on council. So I've been doing it a long time. In the interim between those times, I served on the police board, which I now serve on again. So, so I'll do the math. I was 23, I'm 58, so 35 years.
Wow. So you've been on council almost as long as I've been alive.
Well, no, I've only been on council for 4 terms.
Oh, sorry. You've been in politics. You've been in politics.
Exactly.
Your political career is 3 years younger than I am. So that's right. It's quite a bit of experience. So you're not necessarily new to the game, but obviously no one could prepare you to take over under these circumstances, I imagine, right?
Yeah, they are unprecedented times. We declared our state of emergency, and I chair the emergency management meetings every Monday, which I did earlier today. We're now doing our council meeting virtually, and trying to the extent possible still get out in the community and do some happy birthday wishes or hand out some masks at various functions. I've been doing a lot of media with the tragedies at Orchard Villa as well, including
that was crazy.
Recently as today. So it's been a whirlwind of conference calls. My last 5 apps on my iPad are Zoom, Skype for Business, Teams, and WebEx. So we now have a new reality of how we're doing these meetings, and I think it'll change the way we have business in the future, to be honest. It's been problematic. How many times have you heard you're muted, or are you on the line? Are you on the line, Sterling? But I think the reality is sometimes technology scared us off, and now we'll have to embrace it.
Well, first things first. It didn't scare this guy off. All right. I'm a tech genius. I'm a tech guru. But no, it's true. And, it's been a common theme through a lot of these podcasts I've been doing with other counselors of just like, what does it mean? What does tomorrow bring for us, post-pandemic? And I'm of the mind that I really hope we embrace using modern technology more. I think I was talking to Chris Leahy from Whitby, and he was saying that, oh, like he prefers working in an office setting and getting everyone there. And I agree with that to a degree, but I also think there's an opportunity to let people work from home so that we don't necessarily have to keep building infrastructure for people to come into an office just for the sake of going to the office. I think it'll reduce a
Yeah.
lot of commuting.
I talked to a developer of businesses, and they said they can go either way. They'll either have the technology being embraced and you're working at home, or the physical plant will have to be bigger because they need social distancing. So they're not quite sure how it's going to go. I think the business travel is going to be diminished in terms of why fly to Calgary when we've proven we can have a meeting and be functional and productive through video chats. So I think like 9/11 changed the way we think about terrorism and travel and immigration and the like. COVID-19 will be our generation, although I qualify for both generations.
You're in the middle, right? You're
yeah,
ex-boomer,
2001
right?
and 2020 for defining moments. I think this is going to be this generation's defining moment. And we'll look back and say, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter who talks about the sickness.
Right.
So she puts it in a term that's easy for her to understand. And she says, Bubby, which is my name, we can't go out because of the sickness, or Bubby, wash your hands because of the sickness, or something along that line. So I think it'll be a changed world when we get through this.
Now, Kevin, for the record, can I start calling you Bubby now as well?
No, yes, yeah, sure.
Or have we opened that up? Are we comfortable with that? So what is your, I imagine politics is probably taking 20 of the 24 hours of your day right now, but hopefully you have some time to unwind and, do non-political things. What does a Kevin Ashe do non-politically?
Well, I've watched some good TV.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't know. You're at the mayor's, the Sean Collier's Ajax Mayor's Gala online, and you guys were going over your favorite TV shows. And in the chat, I was saying that you and I are TV soulmates. Like, I have not met anyone who watches the exact same series of shows that I do, but you and I are thoroughly connected.
Yeah, I watched Homeland, and I watched Ozarks, and I watched The Wire for the first time ever. I watched all 5 seasons.
So good.
Billions started last night.
You watch it?
Great. I did not. I taped it. So it's probably on my agenda for tonight.
Nice.
But those are the kind of shows I like, as opposed to traditional. I have a couple of comedies I follow, but I do watch The Good Doctor. I enjoy that show. I watch 911 and those shows, but the dramas are not really my thing, or the comedies anymore.
Right. Well, again, I suggest to you Succession if you like Billions, and if you like, that's right in the line of Billions, I find. So, if you were to say what your top 2 or 3 TV shows all time were, do you think you can name them?
Oh God.
Put you on the spot.
No. I would go. There was some shows I never missed, and they were comedies. Was Cheers, was Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And I was a big Modern Family kind of guy until the last couple of years. So I did watch shows like that. I loved Designated Survivor. Again, some of kind of a political
Back
themes
to politics.
again.
Back to politics.
Madam Secretary, again, I find those shows interesting.
West Wing? Do you watch The West Wing?
I love The West Wing.
Yeah, so good.
I tried to get into it again. I watched it every week. I haven't rewatched it, but that was a great show as well. So I really would have loved to find out if who would have won, Schmitz or Alan Alda.
Oh no, we find out.
Oh, do we? I forget now.
Yes. Jimmy Smits had won.
Oh, did okay. So,
but then he takes on
damn the Democrat.
Democrats again, right? It's Aaron Sorkin writing, so you shouldn't be too shocked. Exactly, but he takes on Alan Alda as his Secretary of State.
Oh, good. Okay.
So a little.
I didn't remember that, but I do remember the last shows.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, your father was heavily political as well.
Indeed. My dad was the first mayor of Pickering when we went to regional government on January the 1st of 1974. He ran against the Reeve. My dad was the deputy Reeve then. We had the county government, and the county that we lived in was called Ontario County. And he became the first mayor of the city of Pickering, the town of Pickering at the time.
Right.
We changed to the city of Pickering on January 1st, 2000, because of your friend Mark Holland's motion, which has been great. My dad then subsequently got elected to the provincial legislature in 1977 and was reelected in 81 and 85 and had four portfolios in cabinet in the Davis and Miller governments. And they were the Minister of Revenue, the Minister of Government Services, the Minister of Energy, and the Chairman of Management Board.
So I think it's safe to assume you've had politics in your blood for quite some time then.
Yes. I mean, when I was born in 62, my dad was, I think, on the school board back in Ottawa, where I lived, or was first born, and I moved to Pickering when I was 5, so 1967. And it's been part of my life, certainly, since that time.
Now, did you know at a very young age, either through, looking up to your father or whatnot, you're like, I'm going to be a politician at one point in my life. Did you know that, or did you just fall into this relatively late?
No, I didn't. It wasn't relatively late because, first of all, I got elected at 23, and I worked at Queen's Park for the deputy premier when I was 19. So it wasn't a big step for me to go from political staffing to the political side, similar to what you did. And I'm one of 4 siblings, but I'm the only political animal in the house. My brother lives in North Carolina. My older brother was never interested in it, and my sister's a small business owner up in Uxbridge. So I was the one of 4 that elected to follow in Dad's footsteps.
And do you find there's like pressure now? Like, do you find like you have to become the mayor to like continue the legacy, or you're just trying to do the best you can right now?
I'm doing the best I can. I mean, I did try and follow in his footsteps. In 2007, I ran for the Progressive Conservatives under John Tory in the riding of Ajax Pickering at the time, and I wasn't successful. And then I returned to council in 2010, and now my third term. We have a great mayor, and I hope he comes back and remains mayor for some time. So there's no job opening. This is a great interim measure, and I do have. Maybe I'll show you. How do I do this? Switch camera. So up there's my dad's old G. Ashe Mayor. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but that's it's in my office here at City Hall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, you get your own office in City Hall?
I do. Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call my staff right now, and because
let's do a virtual tour
if we don't mind. Yeah, so I can be jealous.
These are all the pictures of all the councils that I sat on.
Okay.
And they change over the years.
Right.
So your friend there, Mark Holland, you'll recognize him.
You got Marcus on there? There he is. Oh,
yeah,
look at that young buck.
2004 to 2006. I also have pictures of my police board colleagues, as well as some other pictures here. So yeah, we have our own office, which we're lucky to have. I know not all jurisdictions do that, but
no, I'm sharing a shoebox with my other regional council colleagues. Yeah, and they gave me the worst part of the shoebox. Yeah, because I'm the most junior, which is fair, I suppose. But yeah, apparently Pickering is living the good life right now.
Yeah, well, we planned this when we opened this facility in 1989, and we're in the process of doing a major development across the street at the Pickering Town Center, which will include a new library. So our current library is going to be repurposed as an enhanced city hall. Okay. We're also looking at a performing arts center in a little, I guess, a little bit larger than the St. Francis Center in terms of capacity.
Not that we're competing, Kevin.
Yeah, so we're not competing, yes. And then a youth and senior center as well as part of the redevelopment.
Now, your library is actually pretty high tech, if I'm not mistaken. You guys have a lot of the 3D printers and a lot of the maker spaces there. That will go over to the new library, presumably.
Yeah, yes. We have three branches in our library. We have our northern branch, Claremont, our main branch, and then we have the George Ashe Library, which is named after my dad on Kingston Road.
How
So
cool is
that's
that?
yeah, it is great. It's
How
a great
cool is
lawn
that?
sign. It's in
Yeah.
my ward.
You just point at it each time, be like,
Yeah,
ah, that's my old
exactly.
man. What are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
exactly.
That's my old man. No, that's awesome. No, a lot of people, it's funny. Just we all take different paths to where we are now. I was unlike you. I was very much unpolitical. Like I followed politics tangentially. I took poli sci in university, but I never imagined I'd ever be running. And then I met Mark, and here I am. What is your best advice you would give to someone who, let's say, someone younger who wants to get into politics? What is your best advice there?
Well, I think the advice is twofold. One, do it for the right reasons. And if it's in municipal councils, your term of office ends at some point. So don't make it your whole life. Have an education or a career to fall back on, or to partner together. Have a good boss so you can keep that. But do it for the right reasons. I mean, we sure don't do it for the money,
Right.
but because you're in your big earning years right now, and it's not that we're paid adequately, but we could be making more money in the private sector, that type of thing. So do it for the right reasons, and involve in your community. There's all kinds of great ways to get involved in politics that isn't elected. It can be through community work. It can be through charity. It could be through committees of the city. And there's all kinds of ways you can serve your community, and not necessarily around the council chamber.
Right. And what is your favorite versus least favorite part of campaigning? I'm always curious because you've been through a few campaigns at this point.
I ran 11 times. I'm 8-11.
It's a winning record.
It's a winning record.
You're eight.
It's
No,
leading.
you're eight. You're 8 of 11, not 8 and 11.
No, I'm 8-11. I'm
Right.
eight
Right.
and
Okay.
three. I'd be leading the league in
Yeah.
batting. No, it's a lot more fun winning than losing. But I love campaigning. It's hard. It's hard
Yep.
work. People have no idea. Our elections are typically in October, and I try and get through my ward once before Labor Day, and
Hmm.
then do it again. And it's hard work, tough on the muscles. Our campaigns are typically us and a handful of other people,
Right.
and there's lots of polls and there's lots of people. So I love it. As I go knock on the door, I say, I'm Kevin Ashe. I'm here for my job interview. And people like that particular opportunity, because that's what the elections are about. It's about renewing my term. So I enjoy it, but it is exhausting. And to the best, most part, at the municipal level, it's not too personal.
Right.
That's not to say that doesn't always happen, but I've tried to make it about me and my commitment and my vision and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to what my opponent or opponents might have to say.
Right. And what do you think is your vision for Durham? I mean, I try not to get too political, but you've probably been the longest running councillor I've had so far. So what do you think the next 10, 15, 20 years looks like for Durham region? Just so I can steal ideas for when I run for reelection.
Yeah. I think Durham's time is now. We've kind of built out the West. We're almost building out the North in terms of York, and it's Pickering's time. But we need, being its time, also needs a commitment by the governments at all levels to do renewal of our infrastructure. We're starting with our roads to some degree. We have to make transit work for people instead of just going to the GO train and to Durham
Toronto.
College.
Yeah.
We've got the GO train going out to Bowmanville, which I think will help in perhaps a reverse commute. I always say I'd love people not only to live here in Pickering and Durham, but to work here. I'd love for people to get on the streetcar in Liberty Village and take the GO train on here for a job. And we are seeing some success. OPG's moving their head office here. We have MPAC's head office. We have Kubota moving their head office to the Innovation Corridor along the 407. So infrastructure is important. We have a discussion about an airport, which I think would be a job producer in whatever form it ultimately ends up, either private sector or government led. And we're fortunate enough to have good trained employees. We have good health care, and we have a couple of partnerships with universities in Durham, as well as the physical location of Ontario Institute. I forget what we're calling it this week, but Durham College and Ontario Tech Institute.
OTU, right? OTU, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So
nice.
So that's my vision. I don't know if it's that my crystal ball might be a little fuzzy these days, but I think Pickering and our friends to the east are in for a good run.
Good to hear. Now, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn by saying you are conservative by nature, and I'm obviously liberal by nature.
Yep.
And so it's shocking that the two of us have never really butt heads, like in the back chambers or anything.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, so what about the conservative party or being conservative appeals to you specifically? Like, what are some of the key tenets of being conservative that speak to you?
Well, first of all, I'm glad we don't butt heads. I make it a point to respect anyone's viewpoint, even when I don't share it. And I always try to be cordial, friendly, and try and have a sense of humor about,
of course,
one's political differences. But being a conservative to me is a couple things. One is, and maybe the past months might change my view of big government versus small government, but
right.
I think we'll have an adult conversation about the role of government as we move forward. But being a conservative means about personal responsibility. It means less government, and then by extension, less taxes. Conservatives to me are center about, when I say personal responsibility, it's also about community responsibility. We talk about a hand up, not a hand out. And sense of personal security is threatened. So we're usually strong on law and order. Not to suggest that other parties don't have those same values, but certainly ones that I embrace as a small c and I guess big C conservative. So.
And do you find that we'll call it the far right, the extreme right, your Tea Partiers in these states, as an example, do you find that they are veering the party to places that you are sometimes uncomfortable with, or generally do you just say you got to take the good, take the bad, and kind of appeal to as many people as possible?
Well, I actually think the Conservative Party has traditionally been a big tent, from center left to far right, and we've probably narrowed that gap from the center left to the center, and we tried to narrow our far right people as well, in my view, because some of the things that they stand for is certainly not something I stand for. And I think we have a polarization, certainly in the States, where there's only two parties, and here we really have four parties, and in Quebec we have five parties. So
right.
There's lots of overlap. It would, a lot of people talk about I'm a Bill Davis Tory, which mean a red Tory. I'm a Paul Martin liberal, which would mean a blue type of thing. So there's certainly an overlap, and with four or five parties, there's enough to go around. Like, you would always think that the Green Party was the far left party, but now they're trying to be more mainstream.
Correct. Yeah.
And the NDP try and get elected more mainstream, but their ideals are more left. So it's a difficult sometimes to pick which one we're talking about.
Right. No, I mean it's if anyone were to I think a lot of people. Again, I've always had a very positive interaction with you. Which again, if you look at our social medias, I would have been shocked because I find sometimes you just like to play around on social media and troll, if you will, to get a specific reaction, which is always funny to me because I always know, like I don't know, like through meeting you personally, it's never been done to me personally, right? We're
No.
always very good natured about it. We always say, "Oh, I bet you $10 the Liberals are going to win or the Conservatives are going to win." It's always
Yeah.
been very positive. So I think this is a really cool example of just seeing that you know the personas we choose to have on social media may not necessarily reflect the exact individuals we are. There may be an aspect of it, but I don't think it's like solely. I don't think Kevin Ashe on Twitter is exactly who Kevin Ashe is, the individual, right?
Well, that's true. And to be honest, with these new responsibilities, I've uh, um, tried to lessen my partisan angle because with being deputy mayor and representing all of the people, I have tried to be more inclusionary. I do have two Twitter accounts, one that's nonpartisan in its entirety, and my personal one, it's less partisan than it used to be. The same with, I have a Facebook that's professional, Deputy Mayor Kevin Ashe, and a personal one, and I've tried to tone it down a bit, and I guess I bored you a bit with it, Paul. So.
No, it's again, you have bored me. I'm not gonna lie. I like troll Kevin Ashe so much better. Now, what is so when you're married, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What was your first date with your wife like? I'm fascinated about this.
Well, I've been married. I This is my second. I'm not actually married, but we've
Okay,
been living together for 10 years.
common law.
So yes, common law, and we have three children. We had four. We lost one to mental health,
Right.
and we have a granddaughter who lives with us. So I have a blessing there. So I met my wife at the mayor's golf tournament.
Oh,
Yeah, in Ajax
okay.
at Deer Creek, and she was volunteering for the hospital, and I met her on one of the holes, and the rest is history.
No. You're not getting away that easy. So, did you make the first move? Were you just like, oh, we should go out for a drink, or what happened?
I met her out on one of the holes, and then I was intrigued by her, attractive lady. I'm recently single, and I met her after in the clubhouse at Deer Creek, and we had mutual friends.
Okay.
I had just gotten over a very serious illness. I had a blood clot, which took a toll on my body, and so my nurse, and we're friends with Karen,
Right.
and she introduced us more formally, and that's how it all started. So.
And then did you ask her out for a first date? She asked you for her first date.
I asked her out for the first date,
Got a
and
boy.
yeah, oh yeah, and it was 2 nights later, and I take her back to Deer Creek for the police awards, and she sits at the chief's table with me. So it was
Oh,
quite an introduction for her,
yeah,
but pretty impressive too, right?
yeah. No, totally. You did the old razzle dazzle,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's been 10 years. You say
11.
11.
Actually, 2000. I met her 12 years ago, and we've been living together for 11 years. Yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah.
And what do you find? Like, what are some of the key things you have in common? Like, for example, my wife and I, movies is what brings us together. Like, I've seen every movie under the sun. Less so now that I have a 2.5-year-old. But like, my wife and I, every week we see 2, 3 movies without fail. So, what is the one kind of common trait you and your wife share?
Well, she works for the Central East Lynn and in communications, so she's very connected politically, and has a discussion often about public policy. But our shared love is travel. We
Okay.
go away on, as you know, I try and get away as many times as I can, 3, 4, 5 times a year.
Right.
Sometimes just for a weekend, but also to fun parts around the world. So we have a shared passion for travel, and we have kids. So those responsibilities change as your children get older.
Right.
We have a shared passion about advocacy now for mental health.
Yes, of course.
And looking after, my daughters just started working at Orchard Villa, believe it or not,
Oh, okay.
last week. She was working at Lake Ridge, and they've placed her to Orchard Villa to hopefully get over the hump there of the tragedy that's occurred. So that's kind of the short answer, but
Yeah.
it's a good answer. Oh, and red wine.
Of course, of course. Speaking of which, my wife asked me to buy her a bottle of red wine when I go shopping this afternoon. What's a red wine I should be getting her?
Well,
On a sterling salary, not a Kevin Ashe, not a deputy
okay.
mayor
Well,
salary,
there's a
the sterling
nice
budget.
Sterling winery, actually, Sterling Vineyards. It's California. We've now gone to California. We used to do South African. Now we love California, Napa Valley stuff, and it's fairly affordable. You can get a Behringer bottle of wine for like $11 up to $23. So it's not $8 bottle of wine, but I think you can enjoy a good California for 11 or $12.
Okay, California, remember that. And then before, one last question to you is favorite place to visit. So you love to travel, what's your favorite place been?
Oof.
Macau? Have you been to Macau?
I've not been to Macau.
Gotta go to Macau.
I go to Ireland every year to play golf, and I really enjoy my week in Belfast and Dublin. I've been to Bahamas and New Orleans, and I've
Love
been to
New
Las
Orleans.
Vegas. Yeah, I love New Orleans. I've been there so often now. I'm not really a Bourbon Street guy anymore. I go to all the other streets
Yeah,
and
of course.
Frenchman area and the like. So I enjoy exploring when I'm in a city. I like Las Vegas for it's not just about gambling. There's shows and the like.
But there is gambling if we want
I'm
to
told there is
indulge.
gambling.
If we want to
But
indulge.
one of my best favorite cities is Boston.
Oh yeah, I took my wife there about 2 years ago. Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a great city. You can walk everywhere. You can take in a game at Fenway. Great history there. Paul Revere. So I really enjoy the city of Boston. So
cool.
Although lots of Democrats.
How dare they?
Yes.
I heard those Kennedys are from there, huh?
Yes, exactly.
Kevin, before we go, is there a nonprofit or a restaurant you want to plug? Give shout outs to.
Well, I support all the charities in our area, but I was at the St. Paul's on the Hill food bank the other day. They're doing great work for people that are vulnerable. I try and frequent a number of our restaurants that are struggling. There's dozens and dozens and dozens in Ajax and Pickering that employ hundreds and hundreds of people that are struggling to get by. So to the extent possible, use their delivery service or use their curbside pickup. The skip the dishes and the Uber Eats takes 25, 30 points off the top.
Take a huge cut, right?
So if you can support them, do that and use their services directly because it's difficult. I'm supportive of Premier Ford's idea to have a soft opening, but we have to do it in a prudent manner that protects public safety and protects residents. So hopefully as we turn the calendar, here we are on May 4th, we'll hopefully get back to normal in the coming weeks and months, and we'll see you at Regional Council.
And which restaurant was the last one you went to? Just so I can plug.
Last one I went to, I've been to Jack Astor's a couple times. I did Sushi 123 on Liverpool Road. I did Sotter's Inn in the Village, which is a favorite of mine. I love the schnitzel there. And I went and picked it up. So those are three off the top.
Good. And where can people find you on social media?
They can get me at kash@pickering.ca, which is my counselor's email address. My Twitter is Kevin Ashe1, and my Facebook is just simply Kevin Ashe or Deputy Mayor Kevin Ashe. And I'd be happy to respond and interact and be part of the Sterling Lee fan club.
All two of them. And I think you're
Yes.
one of them, actually.
Yeah.
But Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. You can find me, everyone, at Your Voice for Ajax, number 4. And Deputy Mayor Ashe, it's an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you at Regional Council, and thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers. Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. And wait. Sorry. Pause.